Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Read Step. I am your host, Isaiah Ruiz, and today we're going to talk about those two matchups that took place today between Virginia Tech and South Carolina and the game of the evening, Notre Dame versus Miami. I cannot wait to get into this episode. Cannot wait to talk about both of the games. But first, we're going to go ahead and start off with the Virginia Tech taking on South Carolina. All right, so talking about Virginia Tech versus South Carolina, definitely was not. I'll put it to you this way. I thought that first of all, the game was an amazing game, and it was a great game until it wasn't a great game. Obviously, this was a very important game for the head coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks, Shane Beamer, son of his father, legendary head coach for Virginia Tech, Frank Beamer. Very emotional game for him. It was a very important game for him. Not just him though, but really for both teams. Like I had mentioned in some of the other episodes prior to today, South Carolina is going to be one of the favorites to win the SEC, and rightfully so. Now, originally, I would have said that they weren't going to be one of the top favorites, but given what happened to Alabama, and given how bad Texas looked, especially with Arch Manning, I think the SEC for the first time in a very long time looks like it's really going to be wide open. You have Texas that looked like they were struggling very, very much against an elite defense. Now, Arch Manning obviously has time to grow and get better throughout the season. We know that. You have Alabama just being shell-shocked and getting upset by FSU. We'll get into that in another video. I want to talk about that, the aura and just the where Alabama really is as a program right now. But they got upset. You have Oklahoma looking absolutely on fire offensively, and you have South Carolina who came out today just utilizing all their weapons, especially in the second half with LaNorris Sellers, Nyck Harbor, Dylan Stewart did his thing. All the guys that we've talked about before, they went out for South Carolina and they did their thing today. However, I think before we get into that, one of the things that I do want to highlight is Virginia Tech's defense. Virginia Tech's defense today kept them in the game for the majority of this ball game. Their defense was getting after it. Their defense was getting to LaNorris Sellers, where they were able to get him to the ground or not. They were able to really stop the run. They were doing a great job as a defensive team, and I was really, really impressed with what I saw from the Virginia Tech Hokies. Offensively, Virginia Tech, they definitely did struggle as well. Like I mentioned, Dylan Stewart had a really good game. The entire South Carolina defense had a pretty good game, but the offense of Virginia Tech, they struggled a little bit. Kyron Drones had a lot of eyes on him today. First time really being on the limelight like that in a very long time. But I thought he played okay. However, I think Virginia Tech's defense was really the highlight for Virginia Tech moving forward, especially in the ACC. They're going to give teams like Miami problems. They're going to give teams like SMU. Florida State. I think they're going to give a lot of good SEC teams problems. I don't think they're going to win the ACC. I don't think they're going to be in that top tier. But I was really impressed with Virginia Tech, and I wanted to give my flowers to them before I even get into South Carolina, because I thought they played very, very well. It was a very, very well-coached team defensively and a very, very strong defensive team, especially on that front seven. That front seven was getting after it, play after play after play, and did the best that they could to keep Virginia Tech in that game. It almost was going to look like it was going to be an upset by Virginia Tech, to be honest. I mean, they had the safety earlier in the game. That was I believe it was like 2-8 or 2-10 at one point. Then it was 5-8 or 10, and then 8-10, and then it wasn't until the very end that the game kind of broke loose or broke wide open. But shout out to Virginia Tech, heck of a ball club, heck of a defense by the Hokies. Again, can't say anything more about how well they were coached and how strongly willed they played and really got after it and got after that offense of South Carolina. But ultimately, they couldn't stop them forever. And that's kind of where we get into this game as far as the South Carolina side. South Carolina, to say the least, they showed why they are going to be a real threat in the SEC this year. Like I already mentioned, LaNorris Sellers, I've had him before, mentioned that he's going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate, and he put it on full display today. Absolute beast, a unit. I think he's 6'3", 6'4", weighs a lot, built like a linebacker, and he made all kinds of different plays. He made plays on his feet. He made plays in the air. He did exactly what he was supposed to do, And towards the end of this game, when he was able to hit Nyck Harbor there, and at the end of the ball game to really seal the deal for South Carolina, and make that first down conversion at the end of the game, also where he was nearly sacked, but the defensive end for Virginia Tech couldn't get him down again because he's just so freaking big. He showed why he should be a front runner, at least in the top 5 early on in the season for the Heisman Trophy candidacy. I also think DJ Lagway should be up there. Obviously, I think Arch Manning will still be up there. Jeremiah Smith and Brian Williams. I think those are like the 5 that are probably going to be up there. But I think LaNorris Sellers for me should definitely be up there. He had a very impressive outing, and I get that it's Virginia Tech. Albeit, though, that Virginia Tech is definitely not like a scrub team. Like, it's not like some of the other SEC teams have played, like my Oklahoma Sooners playing Illinois State. Virginia Tech is still a really good program, and like I mentioned, they show that they hopefully might have a pretty really awesome defense this year on the defensive side of the ball. But LaNorris Sellers absolutely went and did his thing. He closed out the game. He did it in every way possible, whatever way he needed to do it. Whether it be on the ground, rushing, whether it be through the air and hitting Nyck Harbor, whatever the case may be, he found a way to get it done, and he performed amazingly and amazingly, to say the very least. I think if South Carolina continues to play this way, man, that game, South Carolina versus Oklahoma, is going to be an amazing game to watch with both of those offenses on the field. I think South Carolina versus Clemson is going to be one hell of a game. South Carolina, if they play this way, like the way that people are hoping, and some are hoping that they play, and most people expect them to play with that type of explosiveness on offense, they're going to be a fun team to watch throughout the entire season. I cannot wait to see more of South Carolina and LaNorris Sellers, to be honest with you. Now, getting to Nyck Harbor, he had that really long touchdown, track speed. When he does go to the combine, we're talking probably gonna be another 4.2 guy. He's a legitimate world-class athlete, elite speed. He's also too all of like 6'5" or whatever the case may be, maybe a little taller than that, 230 something, just an absolute freaking unit. Absolute unit. Nyck Harbor is an absolute dog. He's just like so freaking. He's gonna be so unguardable, and not just by unguardable by Virginia Tech. I think anybody he plays, I think this year is gonna be even better than last year. He's an absolute, the best way I can describe it is a unit. He's an absolute dog, and he's gonna continue to make the plays like he did at the end of this game, and going downfield, and just being able to literally outrun everybody on the defensive side of the ball for any of the opposing teams. I mean, he's just going to be him. I wouldn't be surprised if him and LaNorris Sellers end up being in the conversation for the Heisman Trophy candidacy by the end of the year. Nyck Harbor is the real deal. He's one of the best players in all of college football. I think South Carolina right now has 3 of the top 10 players in college football. I mentioned Texas has 2. Ohio State has 2. I think South Carolina can make the argument right now, especially after week 1 against a really good Virginia Tech defense, that LaNorris Sellers, Nyck Harbor, and Dylan Stewart are also three guys that could end up being in the top 10 when it's all said and done. So, Dylan Stewart, speaking of him, he went and did his thing. It was a very first team All-SEC as a true freshman last year. He comes in, he has a sack. He did have a little bit of a moment there where it looked like he hurt his shoulder, but he did what he normally does. He's a game disruptor. He's an absolute animal on the defensive side of the ball. He's going to give teams havoc no matter who he plays, whether it's, like I said, Oklahoma, Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, anybody that's on their schedule that they're going to be playing this year. He's just an absolute freaking animal. I call Nyck Harbor a unit. Nyck Harbor a unit. I'm calling Dylan Stewart an animal, and that's exactly what he is. And he's only a true sophomore as well. So we still got another year of college football with Dylan Stewart. He's going to continue to really, make such a big difference on the defensive side of the ball. This is the type of player where he can go and get that key sack on 3rd down to make it 4th and long. Get that sack on 4th down, game sealing, sack fumble or game sealing sack. Whatever the case may be, Dylan Stewart is what I call a game changer. He makes the plays when you need to make plays the most. He's a very definitely see him as a clutch player. He kind of, as far as game impact, at least right now, game impact wise, he does remind me a little bit of like a Von Miller and Aaron Donald, somebody who's not just gonna consistently be that name to get the sacks and create the turnovers, but really put himself in position on the defensive side of the ball to help others get in position of making plays as well on the defensive line, and just absolutely wreaking havoc. That game in itself, though, Virginia Tech versus South Carolina, was truly an amazing game. I loved watching it throughout the entirety as the game was going on. But like I said, at the end of the game, you had Nyck Harbor going downfield, beating his corner. LaNorris Sellers finds him, and that's pretty much the game clincher. But I think the other exciting play, I would argue the most exciting play, and this is the one where it really felt like the momentum officially switched. It was literally back and forth, back and forth. Who was going to be the one that was going to make the big play to really either for Virginia Tech would have been take the lead. Now we have control of this game and we have an opportunity to make an upset, or it was going to be South Carolina to make a big play somewhere and they go on and they stretch the lead and they kind of reclaim not reclaim, but they officially grab hold of that momentum and take control of that game, which is exactly what they did. They had that punt return by what is his name? Who was it that returned that punt? I'm kind of blanking right now. I am so sorry. Excuse me. They had an amazing punt return, which was so electrifying to watch. I'm trying to look it up right now. It'll be right here. Kick returns. Oh, Vicari Swain. He had he had that what I believe was like an 80-yard punt return. That was so fun to watch. He was kind of maneuvering in and out of different defenders and different blocks, and at the end he kind of just dives there at the end to get the touchdown. When they got that punt return, that was kind of clear, and you saw the emotions going throughout the entire sideline of South Carolina. You had Shane Beamer running up and down the sideline. He was getting electrified and kind of hyping up the crowd for South Carolina as well. It was just such a fun game to watch. It was nice to watch. I believe during the broadcast, he even said, one of the reporters and said that it was very fitting because his dad, Frank Beamer, again, longtime coach and historic coach for the Virginia Tech Hokies, had always made plays on special teams. So his son, meaning Shane Beamer, to go and have one of his players go and return a punt for a touchdown, breaking the game open. It was a special moment for him. And it was kind of nice to see. That's the type of stuff in sports that we love to see. That's what makes sports, and that's what makes it so electrifying. We love the downfield passes to Nyck Harbor. We love the downfield passes to Tyreek Hill and all of the exciting plays when it comes to the game of football. But punt returns, kick returns, stuff that's done on special teams, that's what really, I feel like in a way that's some of the stuff that really gets you almost even more hyped up, because this is not something that happens very often. So to see that punt return and that point of the game where both teams were really struggling offensively, both teams were trying to get into a rhythm, that you could tell that was the play that gave the rhythm back to South Carolina and had them really take control of the game, officially give them that momentum. And it was just kind of in a way, it was downhill for Virginia Tech from there. But no disrespect to Virginia Tech whatsoever. Again, they fought their asses off. They did what they needed to do. And at the end of the day, South Carolina was obviously just a better team. But I think so many people expected South Carolina to win by a lot more than just, what was the final score to that game? That final score was 24-11. So it was a decent margin, but I think people expected that margin to be even deeper. But regardless, that was an amazing game. It was such a fun game to watch and truly was just special. Some of the final stats for that was 12 of 19 for LaNorris Sellers with 1 touchdown. QBR is 75. Again, he did struggle. Both teams struggled offensively for the majority of this game, but he found a way to win. That 1 touchdown went to Nyck Harbor, 3 catches, 99 yards, 1 touchdown. That touchdown, by the way, was a 64-yard touchdown. And it was everything. I mean, all of these games were truly so far in college football. I keep saying this, but they've been so freaking great, so fun to watch, and it's exactly why we love the game of football. Exactly why we love the game. Now, going on to the next game, I want to make this video a little bit shorter, so we're going to go on to the next game. Notre Dame, Miami, that was a thriller at Hard Rock Stadium. I believe I got that. Yeah, Hard Rock Stadium. Miami coming in as the number 10 team in the country, playing Notre Dame, the number 6 team in the country. Notre Dame coming off of a national championship appearance to which they lost to Ohio State. And Miami is trying to, especially not just Miami, Mario Cristobal, I believe it's his, 4th or 5th year with the Miami Hurricanes after leaving Oregon and having a pretty successful career there with the Ducks. But I think this game more for Miami and Mario Cristobal, definitely more than Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman. It not only did it mean more, but I think Cristobal had to win that game. Miami had to win that game last year. You have Cam Ward, the number 1 pick in the draft, going to the Titans this year. And it's been a really, really long time since Miami's really been of any significance. They've obviously had them hyped up a little bit over the last few years, but it feels like this was the type of win that they needed to have. This is the type of win that I think is going to propel them to getting to back to the. I can't remember actually if they maybe went to. I am so sorry about that. Getting this is the type of win that gets them to the playoffs. That could propel them to get to the playoffs this year. This is. It was a hard-fought game. It was a hard-fought game. Again, both teams were, I think, played exceptionally well. Carson Beck, the transfer from Georgia, had a rough year last year. He comes in. He was 20 of 31, 205 yards, a couple of touchdowns. You had Fletcher leading the way with 66 yards on the ground. And you had Tony, 6 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown. And Daniels with 46 yards and a touchdown. This was definitely a game that seemed, at the end of the day, both teams, it was a very close scoring game. Both teams played very similarly. Both teams played well. Both defenses also played well. Notre Dame had to come back in it a little bit because it seemed like Miami had the momentum for sure early on in the game, and Notre Dame slowly but surely fought their way back, and they played well. You had Price, who had 45 yards on the ground, leading the Fighting Irish. Jeremiah Love, the Heisman Trophy candidate, or at least one of them. He did not have too much of a crazy game. He only had 33 yards on 10 carries. CJ Carr, first-year starter, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he did have an interception. But at the end of the day, Miami just made more plays. They made more plays, and again, the best way that I can describe it really is it just seems like they definitely wanted it more because they knew that they had to have it, probably more than Notre Dame. Now Notre Dame is not going to drop that much lower. They'll probably drop to anywhere between 7 to 10. Miami's going to move up a couple spots, but it doesn't get much better than this. This is an 80s rivalry renewed. The Catholics versus the Convicts. And it was just an exciting game to watch. It was a fun game to watch. This is the type of game, and I know I've said this for quite a few games already. I've said this for the last game we just talked about. I've said this for so many games during week 1, but there's really is no other better way to describe it. Like Miami Notre Dame is one of the games that you circle on your calendar to watch come week 1 college football. It was any Notre, and I'm USC Oklahoma fan, but obviously now being a student in Oklahoma, I love my Sooners, but being such a lifelong USC fan, I will say I have nothing but respect for Notre Dame and their tradition and their history. I think Marcus Freeman is a great coach. He's done an excellent job since he's taken over after Brian Kelly left to go to LSU. Almost at some point in the national championship game last year, could have had a chance to go and win it. And this year, they're looking to obviously make a return back, make another deep run into the college football playoffs. Meanwhile, Miami, like I said, with Mario Cristobal still at the helm, and he's kind of ish, in a way, maybe a little bit like on the hot seat. They need to get something done, but I think this is the first thing that needed to be done, which is getting a win over Notre Dame, the number 6 team in the country, and getting that win at home, which is really, really important. They're going to have some other tough games coming into them throughout the year, but this was a really good game for the Miami Hurricanes. It was fun seeing some of the alumni there, Devin Hester, Michael Irvin. I believe that there was somebody else there as well. But overall, it was a really entertaining and fun game to watch. There was some downhill running that was happening between the two teams. But overall, I think Miami, just at the end of the day, they just made more of the plays, and that's really all there is to it. But nonetheless, a heck of a weekend for week 1 of college football. Heck of a weekend for really both teams. Both games with all 4 teams. I don't think college football missed at all whatsoever. The NCAA did not miss, and I don't usually like to give my credit to the NCAA, but truly, great game for Saturday, week 0. Obviously, we talked about that with Iowa State and Kansas State. Now we got week 1 done. We had all the great games yesterday, and we had the 2 really, really good games today. And should be, so far this season, it's looking to be an absolutely amazing season that's happening and going to be taking place. So with that being said, that's all I'm going to talk about today as far as these 2 games. Again, thank you guys so much for everybody that's supporting. Thank you guys so much for everybody that's tuning in and watching. I'm looking at everybody not that I'm looking at everybody, but thank you guys for all the support and everything. We're going to talk about some other things throughout the week or next weekend. We're going to talk about, I think we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what that loss from Alabama means for the program going forward, Kalen DeBoer. And we're going to talk about, next week is also going to be week 1 for the NFL. So we're going to be talking a lot about the NFL, a lot about NFL weekend, and kind of going into that and talking about some of the primetime games. I'm going to give some of my early MVP favorites. But yes, so like I said, as far as today, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. We'll definitely get more content out, like I mentioned. But for now, thank you guys so much for joining and watching. This is The Read Step, and I am your host, Isaiah Ruiz.